Hey, howdy, all you ugly motherfucking looking fish sticks out there. What is up? We are back with another banging episode for you guys. I was going to say something was coming out this weekend, but then I realized we had the same exact conversation last week's episode that we couldn't remember why we decided to watch Longlegs this weekend. Regardless, I'm glad we did because I've not seen this film since it come out. I know you haven't seen it up until this moment, but before we get into your thoughts, I want to ask you, do you remember how much of a fucking sensation this movie was for the first 6 months of 2024 up until it came out?
I do. I didn't know. I don't know. First, I remember seeing stuff online about it and whatnot. There were some talks about the trailers, and obviously I knew Nicolas Cage was going to be it, but I didn't really know much about it other than that. Obviously it had a very viral marketing campaign, but I don't really remember seeing that much stuff until right as it got released, and I started seeing more the word of mouth stuff. But I do remember that it was a big deal coming out.
I think Longlegs can probably be put at the same level as The Dark Knight, other type of marketing levels. I couldn't even tell you how good the marketing for this film was. Weapons tried to do something like this where I think Longlegs made a website with all of the Longlegs killings so you could track down with Micah Monroe's character in this film kind of and do the research yourself. But dude, this movie was made for $10 million. And it made $128 million. Holy shit, bro. That's insane. Especially for, I would say this is not an atypical film that many people would go out to see. It's 128 million's a lot. It's not on the same level as Avatar, Avengers, but that 128 million might as well be in that same vein for this type of film because it is not even, I would say, your atypical horror film. And for me, I think that's what I appreciate most about it.
I definitely think the marketing did its job in terms of building up the hype over the film, which obviously contributed to its strong box office performance. I think it was... hold on, let me see if I'm remembering this correctly.
Well, for the marketing of this, they pulled the Paranormal Activity of it, where they pulled clips of people's heart rates during the movie. They did some weird, audacious shit to get people's interest to say oh man, this is really scaring the hell out of people.
I mean, well, I think it was. I didn't hear about that, but I think what you're referencing is Neon released a clip allegedly of Monroe's heart rate when she first saw Nicolas Cage's character.
Oh, that's what it was. And they posted reactions of people in the theater. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
But I mean, obviously, it had the easiest comparison is the Blair Witch Project, and so there's a lot of stuff with the cryptic messages and the symbols and short clips. That was some of the stuff that I saw mostly online, but obviously there were a lot of billboards. There's a billboard in Los Angeles that just had a clip or a screenshot with Nicolas Cage's character sort of not center frame, and then there was just a phone number on it that you could call, and it would have a pre-recorded message of Nicolas Cage in character. But it's just stuff like that they were doing that I think really got a lot of people interested, which I've heard is good in terms of the marketing, but kind of a double-edged sword when people actually saw the movie. I remember hearing good things about the movie. It wasn't until more recently when I started looking into the movie while after and before I was watching it, where I started seeing a lot of people talking more about how it was a little disappointing, how the marketing kind of didn't work in the end product's favor, which I kind of thought was interesting. But going back to its box office, so it had a $10 million budget. I think the marketing alone was also $10 million budget, $10 million, and but obviously it grossed 128 million worldwide, $74.3 million in the United States and Canada, and $53.6 million in other territories, which is just crazy for this kind of film. I think it was the highest, I want to say the highest grossing film for Neon that year. Or maybe it was, hold on, I'm trying to
Yeah, no, it was. It was
after
Neon's
making 10
highest
million
grossing
on its
film.
first day, including 3 million from Thursday night previews, both records for Neon. It went to debut to 22.4 million. Where's the fucking... Yeah, the opening marked the best opening weekend for Neon and the biggest total for an original 2024 horror film. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, dude, this movie smashed the box office. And I think outside of how they did all of that publicity for it, I think the way they did the trailers also helped them, because another aspect to their marketing was keeping Longlegs slash Nicolas Cage's like look hit, like not completely hidden,
But
but they gave
obscured.
you, yeah, obscured enough to where you could make enough of like your own presumptions of what he looks like, to a point where I think that's where the marketing might have done the movie a little injustice, because of how long it takes them to fully reveal his character look, after what I would argue they show pretty good looks a few times before they cut away. I don't think the film needed to do it as long as it did.
Hmm.
But when it, going back to like what you were saying, how they felt like the marketing was part of the issue with the end product, that's where I feel that a little bit. Everything else I'd argue against. But for me, how did you feel towards like his look? Because that was another like piece of the puzzle, I would say, for why this movie made so much money.
I mean,
Because this was
how do
also
I
in the
preface
middle of
this?
the Nick Cage renaissance, like directly in the middle, where everyone was kind of just like, we want more Nick Cage. We need to see Nick Cage. He needs to win his Oscar.
I mean,
Eh,
listen, I have said this before, but Nicolas Cage is both the greatest and the worst actor of all time.
That's what makes him
It's
so iconic, bro.
yeah, and exactly. Like it's definitely a part of his personality or persona, I guess we'll say, in that you kind of never know what you're gonna get from a Nicolas Cage project. And I think he definitely goes all out in every role he does, but sometimes it can be a little too much. I think this is a good example of him, going all out, and I think it's also a good example of writing around such a kind of over the top character in a way that doesn't feel very overwhelming. And that being said, I obviously I never saw a trailer for this movie really when it was coming out. Obviously, I'd heard about like a bunch of the hype for the movie. I didn't know who Osgood Perkins was. I didn't even know who Michael Monroe was. And the only thing that really I was able to latch onto was like, oh, it's a Nicolas Cage movie, and they were talking about like, oh, he's playing a wacky serial killer. But I think the name, I just assumed it would have something to do with spiders, and I wasn't really that interested in anything from what I was seeing, and so I kind of was just like, and then I didn't really think about it until I started seeing like reactions from people, and I did know what he looked like before I ever saw this movie. Like pretty quickly after the movie got released, I saw what the actual look was. And I think, the idea of obscuring him works and doesn't work, because obviously if you have this I guess expectation for what he's going to look like in like, cuz again, I didn't know what to anticipate before I started seeing stuff. So I assumed he was gonna look like a monster or something. Again, going back with like the title, I thought it was related to spiders or something. And then was seeing it, like, it's unnerving, that's for sure. Um,
But it's
but
not
I think for
scary.
yeah, it's I wouldn't call it scary, like outright scary. It's not.
But
Yeah, so I think if you have a certain expectation going in by not knowing a lot, then it might not come across as well done. But I think it does work to the movie's favor, the way that he looks, because it is very unsettling, and then you pair that with the way that it's performed by Nicolas Cage, if that makes sense.
yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I feel like part of I really like him as the character, and I think the performance is really good. I think part of my issue with the look is I don't know how to say this, or at least like really nicely, I guess. But it just looks like he got way too much Botox done to the extent that it just deformed him. And for me, that always stuck in my head for some reason. And I remember thinking that coming back into this like rewatch for me, and it kept making me laugh at him, but not in a frightened way. And for me, it was bothering me because Nick Cage is going so deep and hard into this character that his look to me isn't fitting what he's doing. And it's a little jarring up until the end. I think once he gets caught by the police, and like the whole plan is unraveled and you start seeing him in the flashbacks, I much prefer that version than when he first goes into like the grocery store or the pharmacy and starts doing like the hand gestures with like his really high cheek fillers and his Rudolph sized nose. And like I get what they're going for, and for me it was the least creepiest part of the film, and I feel like he should have been the creepiest part.
Mm.
And that's where I feel like I kind of get a little like I don't know about, because I love everything else in this movie except for the kind of titular character, because of going back to that. I feel like the look doesn't fit the performance, and I feel like the performance matters way more in this case than the look, but it feels like they overhyped the look so much because for me he doesn't look so outrageously different than I think from like a standard person. Like I feel like the way he looks in this film is the way SNL would make fun of someone who has way too much Botox on their face but doesn't acknowledge it, but the internet does.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. And I don't know if it's supposed to be part of the character
I
or
think it
like
is.
what's going on with it.
What I saw was that he's supposed to be like a washed up glam rocker, or like a wannabe glam rocker or something like that. And so that they did look at like botched plastic surgeries for his look. I agree with what you're saying. Like, and that's something that's a common sentiment that I've seen, is that a lot of people were disappointed when they were watching the film because the movie is very much concerned with like almost like demystifying him, like his character as uh, a serial killer, um, whereas the marketing focused a lot on that
Him being a
hype.
serial killer.
not
Like,
not him being a serial killer, but the hype and the speculation of like who he was and what his deal was, that when you watch the movie and you don't know, like, going in a lot of that stuff, it can be a little bit like, what's that? And the movie doesn't explain a lot of that either, which I think can, some people might find off or jarring, because if you're asking all these questions while you're watching it, the movie's not going to give you an answer.
well, it's frustrating too because I feel like the stuff they do give you about him is interesting, and I think that's what makes you want to learn more about him. Like the fact that he's a doll maker and the way he looks, like there's something there, and that's why I feel like I keep trying to like do gymnastics to try and explain it to myself,
Mm.
because For me, it feels like someone who's like broken with the way they look. Like, I don't know if it's whether because of their parent, their upbringing, a relationship, like an accident could have happened to his face that caused him to do so much reconstruction that doesn't even make him look like someone he used to, even after the accident. Like, there's so many ways they could have gone about it, but I think it goes back to the point that you were saying that people were bringing up in the way that they kind of demystify him and just making him this
Random
occult,
guy,
yeah, this just like random occult
devil worshiper.
doll maker that worships the devil.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice this on my first watch, but after finding this out like through the internet and like paying attention to it this rewatch, it made the experience that much more enjoyable in terms like a creepiness factor. But I'm sure you noticed that Satan was in like a few, like throughout the film here and there. Like you clearly saw
Yeah.
him looking out the
Yeah.
window, but they sneak him into like other shots of when you hear, I think it's the creaking in the floor at the beginning when her mom's calling her and she's doing all of the research and
Mm.
she kind of ignores it. You wouldn't notice it, but I think it's in like one of the dark corners where the doors open. You can slightly see like the light devil horns and eyes in the background. And it's the small stuff in the details like this that I think the movie really excels at that kind of makes me not care as much with those small things with Longlegs in this film that I don't know. I just really appreciate how much more they paid attention to those little details. I don't know, like I can excuse the Longlegs being a random dude and all that. For me, it doesn't like make him any less different. I just wish they went into more of the interesting parts a little bit more in him.
Mm.
I don't know if you feel the same.
I mean, I think for the most part, I'm happy with what we got. Obviously, I knew going in what he looked like and sort of what the deal was. So I wasn't, I think I was caught off more guard by there actually being more of a supernatural element, which I kind of got, that interested me more than I was initially. Because I think a lot of these kinds of like, thriller, mystery thriller movies dealing with serial killers and all that stuff kind of fall into the same trappings. And I think it's really hard to do something unique in some of these types of genres because they are a little oversaturated, especially nowadays with like, you've got like all these true crime documentaries and stuff. There's an expectation for kind of what you're going to get out of it. And, yeah, I don't know. I really liked Nicolas Cage's performance. I think the way that the makeup does work in its favor is that eventually you get to a point where you stop thinking like, oh, that's just Nicolas Cage, because he looks very different. And that was something that I really liked. I don't know. I part of me feels very in the middle on whether or not I wanted them to delve a little more into like his backstory. I don't know what that really would add to the story. I think my main sort of nitpick is that the first act is a little slow, and I think like there could be more happening. Just given how long it is, but I will say that
It's not that
as
long of a film though.
yeah, but you kind of feel the runtime for that first act. I'm not saying that I hated it. I'm like, it's a nitpick of mine because as you keep watching, it starts getting more interesting as it introduces more elements, and I kind of stopped thinking about that. Like, oh, that the beginning was kind of slow.
Well, I'll disagree with you. Like, I get it's a nitpick, and like I understand the point. For me, I really like the slow build because for at least the beginning, I like being put in this. I don't know, like even really how to put it, but like the world's just not right, and you're just immediately uneasy once you're brought in. Or at least once you get away from the cold open and you're like introduced to Micah Monroe as an adult officer being joined into the FBI, the world is just super unsettling. And I think it does a good job at distincting the worlds from when she was a child and she just met Longlegs to where she is now in her life. And for me, it kept me interested because I was expecting something crazy to happen, but not in the way it did. Going back to what you were saying and how you weren't expecting like a supernatural element. When I was first watching this, I was expecting a supernatural element. So like watching the beginning when her and that other FBI officer are going on like the house calls, for me, I was just kind of expecting like them to walk into a murder scene with like some satanic ritual. Like when I first texted you, I said I liked it because it's a cool vibe of like Seven and Supernatural, and it
Yeah.
is. But I was expecting it to be a little bit heavier on the Seven in terms of looking at these gory, bloody corpses and crime scenes, in which this film doesn't do that. And it instead it just blows a dude's head off, and they set you up in a world where supernatural and this stuff exist already, and that's where it threw me off, because I think it goes to the point you were stating and how it subverts the expectation of supernatural and these crime thrillers in a way that I can't think of a film off the top of my head where you're kind of thrown into or thrust into a world that is kind of inherently known that the supernatural exists, but like it's not widely talked about.
Mm.
And like for me, that's what I found most interesting, just right off the glance.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much faith I'd put in the thought that it's common knowledge. I mean, obviously, it being
Well,
set in an earlier time period.
what's it call it? I'm trying to look at the character's name. I can't find it right now. The male character, the officer guy that she goes over to dinner with.
Oh, Blair
Um,
Underwood's character.
yeah, Blair Underwood's character.
I
Oh,
think
Agent
it's
Carter. Agent
yeah,
Carter.
Agent Carter.
I totally walked past it. Carter, dude, the beginning, he's doing nothing but hinting at it or saying, I thought we got you for your supernatural abilities. Like, even Longlegs is giving her the notes that he writes, only she can read. Like, the film's, I feel like, littered with telling you that everyone knows that the supernatural occurs without ever directly saying it.
I mean, I think that's more about like obviously they know that she's kind of vaguely clairvoyant just from the opening where she's able to identify a suspect's house and obviously being correct, and then they do all those tests on her, but I don't think that speaks to like a larger
Well,
or
no,
a wider.
he directly says that's why he got her. They got her.
Yeah, I know, but I think you're putting more onto the idea that everyone believes that it's
No, no,
real.
no, no. I'm not saying like it's a worldwide known thing. I'm just saying that there's people out there that know about it and it exists. It's not like a farce thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying like people are on Twitter being like, this fucking clairvoyant girl's going crazy solving these murders in 90s
Well, no,
Oregon,
yeah.
bro.
I mean, I think there's a. How do I say this?
Say it, motherfucker.
I'm
No,
trying to
I'm
figure out the
joking.
word that I'm trying to use. Um, like I don't know. I never got the sense that anyone fully believed that she like was 100% clairvoyant, but obviously um there's like historical aspects of like government agencies
Hiding
and
it and shit and
testing
all
with
that.
supernatural stuff and all of this like weird almost like sci-fi type
Bro,
stuff.
that's
So
why we got
that
Stranger Things.
yeah, and so I think there's that aspect, but I don't think it's ever directly brought up as face value, if that makes sense. But
No,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that's kind of what I like about it, because again, I wasn't expecting there to be a supernatural element, and so I was kind of wondering like, oh, where's this going with that opening, and then it's revealed that she does kind of have like a weird sixth sense, and that leading to her being included in the stuff with the long legs. I think it sets up not only the tone that the film is going for, but also those, more subtle supernatural elements as we built up to the conclusion.
No, because I agree with your point. I gotta ask you, what do you think about like the central mystery of the film? Did it keep you engaged at all? Because for me, I found it interesting, but I felt like
Which
once it
mystery?
started, not like the mystery, but like the central. How does Micah Monroe's character fit into all of this? Because you don't find out her mom's really involved till the end.
I mean,
I mean, it's fair if you can sit here and say you figured it from the get go. I'm not like saying you couldn't have thought that.
like what figured out the twist?
Yeah, that her mom was
I
involved.
mean,
Oh, but
I didn't know exactly what the twist was, but I think the movie does a good job of like laying the foundation. Like obviously you know something's up with the mom because of one, just the way that her interactions are with what's Michael Monroe's character's name?
Lee
Lee,
Harvey,
yeah, sorry, Lee Harker.
Lee Harker.
And
Yeah,
then obviously you have um the killer like actively threatening her during the like break-in moment at the beginning. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would do in substitute of that. Like the way that they did it. I guess I do think that her connection to Longlegs could have been a little bit better defined. Because it gets to a point in the movie where Blair Underwood's character like kind of just tells her like, to me it didn't feel like we as the audience or her as the character were like naturally progressing towards realizing that there was a deeper connection and that she needed to investigate it. Like Blair Underwood's character just tells her like, I think there's something up here, you need to go look into that. You know what I mean?
no, yeah, I think that's a fair point.
It felt like the
Um,
movie was telling us that this is where we're going and you kind of just need to follow along. But I think it makes up for it in that the twist is actually very interesting. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
no, yeah, I think that's fair. I think part of it is for me what makes it creepy is like I think the idea of is that Longlegs just appeared one day and was gonna just do whatever with Lee as a girl until her mother arrived, and then
Hmm.
that's when her mother just kept getting involved. And I don't think this is where I'm gonna say what you just said to me. I think you're looking more into it than I think there like needs to be, if that makes sense. Like I don't think there can. It has to be them having such a deep and well versed connection, because I think the connection between him and his mom for me was enough by the end.
Well,
Because
I mean, I'm not saying that I dislike the connection that they use. I'm just saying that us progressing toward it, like building up towards the reveal, I guess, could have been a little handled a little bit better. But like, I still like what they did with that like plot thread, because obviously it's like the crux of the climax, and the
yeah,
movie doesn't work without it. And that's where the movie really gets bonkers and I think really interesting. So,
I'm glad you mentioned that because I did want to talk about the ending because I had more thoughts about it this time around than I did the first time. The
what
first
did you
time
think about it the first time?
I was just like, dude, that's just kind of crazy. I didn't think too much about it, like in the moment, and like given the situation and context of the film, the characters. But now after seeing it again and like paying more attention to like the details, I appreciate it more than I did before. In terms that I like how Satan just kind of got what he wanted, which was
Hmm.
Lee the whole time. It was just a long. That's how I read it, at least, because I feel like I don't want to say that there's only one way to read it because people have read things that I've read like fucking 180 sometimes. But I'll just say like I like to me that it felt like Satan got what he wanted in getting Lee Harker from the beginning, which is what drove Longlegs to go to Lee in the first place. It was just a longer plan than initially because they set you up with the idea that the mom made a deal with the devil, but you can never make a deal with the devil. And he was just using her the whole time just for his own greedy pleasures, you know? And Longlegs was just the in between person. He was the doll, if we're going to be metaphorical, you know? So for me, I didn't get that reading the first time, and having like that deeper understanding of the story and what Harker or Lee killing her mom at the end, outside of it just her mom dying and her killing her, for me, I thought was like a lot better of an ending than I think people give it for. Because at least when it came out, I saw a few people complaining about the ending, just not feeling like it was really much of a resolution. And I get it, but I really don't, because I feel like enough of the context is there to know that it's a resolution, just not the one I feel like people really wanted, you know?
I mean,
That's at least how I read into it.
yeah. I mean, I don't really understand how people can not see it as like a resolution, because I think it does ties up like it ties up the core mystery of like who is Longlegs, how is Lee connected, and then also sort of the resolution of her relationship with her mom. I guess I kind of get like it being very open ending in terms of like you can interpret it how you want to. I personally am not entirely sure what to make of it, but it's kind of what I enjoy about it, because it does feel like a movie that you can come back to, pick up on details that you missed the first time, and then walk out with a different idea of what the intended meaning of it all was, if that makes sense. Like I was watching it, and my aunt was kind of like, doing stuff around the house, and towards the ending, like she did see the ending, so after sort of like casually watching with me, and one of the first things that she said was like, oh, did the doll possess her now, in reference to that moment when Lee runs out of bullets when she's trying to shoot the doll.
Yeah.
And I think the movie's more concerned with leaving you with like a question about the ending than anything else, which it isn't inherently a good idea, but I think the movie, like, it works to its advantage, because it kind of does leave you thinking about, like, what was the purpose of that? Like, what was Longlegs' plan? I didn't think about that interpretation that you just mentioned about, like, the devil wanted her all along, and whether or not you interpret that as, like, he wanted her, like, to die, or he eventually got her through, like, possessing the doll. I think either one of those are interesting ideas and just really good food for thought after you've watched the movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's what a good film should do. And I think that's why I like keep coming back to this film, like when I think about movies, especially what's his name? Osgood Perkins. I won't get into like my beef, but I know you haven't seen The Monkey, but
Yeah.
I think it's the same style, like in terms of the look and visuals, but is a wildly different film that I think works for, uh, I'd say, an act and a half. You know, it just really goes off the legs, and it's really confusing because this film, for me, just from a story standpoint, you can probably take a few things here and there, but overall feels pretty tight.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what's most enjoyable, especially sitting at an hour 45. Because I know me, you, and a lot of people probably saying a lot more now that, dude, 2 hour movies, 2.5 hour, 2 hour 45, 3 hour films got like, I enjoy watching them, but not every film needs to be that type of film anymore. And this is a film where I think the editing also really shines, and I think I noticed it more on a rewatch because, man, the sound design is really good in this movie. And it just really made me invest in. I keep going back to that scene in my head where she's investigating. She's sitting out all night. She's eating the bowl of cereal. Her mom calls her. I like the quick edits of it. Just she's doing that all night. Now she's got to go back to work and she hasn't slept. And like that kind of just feels like a cycle for her at this point that she doesn't sleep. But also it goes back to the paranormal aspect of this film where or supernatural with her clairvoyancy, where you hear like the footsteps in the back. This is after she sees like Longlegs in her house and whatever, and she goes back to doing her investigation. But she hears things throughout the house, like doors creaking, and like to me, that's really good and not telling, but makes you really think about her as a character and the clairvoyancy stuff and how she interprets time. And for me, I don't know, think about it however you want, but for me, I think when editing can make you think about a character and the way they view time and being in this character's headspace as much as we are in this film, I think it's just super well done and not enough films do it, I think.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to sort of lose track of who the character is, especially in this kind of movie, and the way that she's written and performed. I think in somebody else's hands, it could easily come off as like very detached, and you wouldn't really feel anything about the character. But I think all of those elements really come together to make her very nuanced and yeah, I don't know. I there was never a moment where I was kind of like bored with her character or thought that it should have been handled differently. And obviously, a lot of that is due to the way that it's filmed. Like it's filmed in a very specific way that we're almost constantly seeing things through her perspective, even when we are getting like a lot of those like cutaway moments with what's his name, Longlegs, and like the dolls and the flashbacks and stuff. Like I really liked all of that stuff.
And I gotta say, I know you said you hadn't known about Micah Monroe before this movie. I absolutely adore her. I think she's a fantastic actor. Um, like she did the Bling Ring in 2013. The thing that got her famous was It Follows. I'm sure
Yeah,
you haven't seen it.
I have not.
But she's fantastic in it, obviously. I know you haven't seen this, but God help anyone soul who saw the sequel to Independence Day. Awful movie. She did The Fifth Wave. Like she did a lot of movies. She did Honey Boy, the Shia LaBeouf like biopic that isn't a biopic. I don't know. I think she's a fantastic actress, and this is a film that I would put on par with It Follows for me when it comes to Micah. I think she can pull off like a lot of roles. But I want to see her more in horror. I think she's really good in these horror films.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what to add to that. I'm
No,
just I'm
no,
not
yeah.
I'm not familiar with her filmography. Like obviously I know that she was in It Follows. Um I did see her recently in that Resident Evil trailer that you showed me.
Oh, I wanted to mention that too, because dude, it's crazy how good that was. If anyone
Yeah.
hasn't seen
Yeah.
it, look up the Resident Evil 9, also Resident Evil Requiem like video game live action trailer. It goes like through the events of like the first three games or something through live action through like the eyes of a mother and losing her daughter, and Micah Monroe's the mother, and she goes insanely hard in a 3.5 minute commercial. Like bro, no one told her to fucking do that.
Who did you say directed that? Wasn't it someone
Oh,
that we
the guy who did War of the Worlds,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
ICQ
yeah, yeah. That's
version, the
right. I
ICQ
haven't seen that
version.
movie. I've seen clips, but
I
what
won't
like
ever watch it. I'm
it didn't
sorry.
look good. So good
I've
on him
watched
for making something good.
I've watched enough of those like YouTube react of like people
Yeah,
watching the entire thing and just shitting on it. So
yeah.
I'm good. I get it. I understand. But Leo, any last remarks before we get into like final wrap ups?
I guess real quickly, we didn't really talk about like the theme of like generational trauma because obviously I know you were kind of commenting on it off podcast about how Some of this is a kind of inspired by Osgood Perkins' real life experiences. That his father was a closeted gay man, and his mom pretty much just did everything she possibly could to hide that fact from him. So that kind of informed the mother-daughter relationship in this film. And I think even in interviews, he's sort of spoken about how that affected him and how he wrote that into Lee's character. And sort of the movie, like the foundation of it is essentially focused on the idea of this mother having a very dark secret, I guess, and the way that she views it as a mother in protecting her child, um, regardless of the consequences and the effects that it has on everyone else. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I just wish it came through a little bit more
Mm.
because I see the seeds and I see the pieces and I understand it. I just don't think it's very thought out in terms of contextualizing it to this story. Like it all feels very,
It's more towards the end of the movie.
which
Like it's not a big focus for like the first half of the film. Like yeah, like you said, there's like hints of it, but I think it definitely could have been a
which
bigger
is part
focus.
of part of my issue with this because it feels like it's the center of the story and it really doesn't come to fruition till the ending,
Yeah.
which is like not part of my issue with the writing, just part of like I don't really think it fully translate with his inspiration, but I see how it translates. So like I don't know if like me saying this is really coming through like that. Just because I
You
feel
know.
like that's hard to say. Like I don't know how else to say that. I don't know because
Mm.
I feel like you can also interpret this in a really weird way with the fact that because he does build the relationship and kind of using the mother in the relationship in the film as like the conduit for his. You said it was his relationship with his mother or his father?
His relationship with his mother.
Okay. And to me, like, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Does that read to you as him saying that, like, his mom was just, like, hiding the fact that he was gay because she was ashamed? Or is that me just, like, not reading it right? Because to
I think
me,
something close to that. I don't think he specifically used the words ashamed, but it's
that's what I'm saying. Like, I
essentially
don't, I don't know if that's
viewing
the
it as an
proper.
unsavory part of her life that her husband was a closeted gay person, and yeah.
Okay, because to me, it kind of reads in the film, like, that the mother's ashamed and I don't know. She's ashamed of like what she's doing it because so she can let her daughter Lee live the life she has.
Mm.
And to me, like I don't know if that's part of that part. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
I don't think you need to read too much into the real life secret, but just the idea of the secret, like there being a secret to protect your child, if that makes sense. Like it's not the contents of the secret.
Okay, so maybe I'll add this context. I don't. For me, that reads as like someone who's ashamed to let their like child know of who their like parent really was. And like that to me, like that's the issue that I'm having getting over because it feels weird. Just because I know about like my background with like my
Yeah.
dad and stuff, and like
Yeah.
I'm not saying like it offends me because it doesn't, but like that's the reason why it makes me think that because I feel like my dad didn't die from AIDS, but I've had the conversations with like feeling ashamed and keeping that secret. So to me, that's why it reads that way because anytime I've talked with someone regarding like not wanting to share that experience or someone's experience with your child or something because you don't want them to know this thing, it's usually been out of shame.
Yeah, I think the real world context is that the part of being ashamed, but I don't know how much of that bleeds into like the fictional context
No,
of the secret
that's
in the
what I'm trying to say.
movie.
I don't know where the fiction and his real life inspiration comes to an end at that point.
I think the base of the inspiration is just that his mom had a secret that, and the reason she had it was in her head she thought it was protecting her children by obscuring the truth, and that's the main part that factors into the secret in the movie. Like I don't think it's a metaphor for like his dad's sexual identity or any of that. It's just the base idea of a parent hiding something from their children in order to protect them.
See, I understand that.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a weird basis for such a small foundation of the story. Like I feel like that using that concept could have literally been originated from anything else, and it feels like to me like a really weird way like putting it. I don't know if it's for like, oh, you know what, I'm doing an interview, I have to boast up like this is what happened to me, or you could read it in the way that I did. You know what I'm not saying is like burn to the stakes. I'm just saying this as like a point of conversation more
Yeah.
so as like me being offended because I'm not.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's interesting with the ending, the relationships in this, because then you also have Carter and his family, which to me, I like their family, but they don't do very much. Outside of being that third act crazy, showing all of the tricks being played, like everything's like in full force. That's how it felt, and I felt like that they maybe could have just used that to clear some of that up. If I feel like he was going to use so much of his past life as a foundation without it really seeming to be a foundation outside of, oh, my mother's keeping this secret to protect me, which feels very bare and basic at the center of it.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
I think it.
I feel like I said a lot, but
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, I feel like most of it factors into like the flashback stuff and
yeah,
the revelation of the secret that she's been keeping. It doesn't, and it doesn't really. It's not a focus once we get to like the final scene of Lee's character going to confront her mom and try to save the Carters, which yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that because there was
yeah, we can just keep
because
going in circles about
I
it.
well no I remembered something that I forgot to bring up, which was that I think she could have done more to try and save the parents, but whatever.
Oh, she always could have done more. She just sat there. Like,
But I don't know. I'm not saying that it's a fully fledged idea, but I think it's an interesting idea that the movie kind of plays with a little bit, and I think it adds an extra layer to the relationship between Lee and her mom, and how she kind of, yeah, like you said, is the contributing yeah, the main contributing factor to like their connection to Longlegs. Yeah, I don't know if that made sense, but
no, I got it. Yeah, no, I understood it.
anyways, yeah, we should go ahead
Let's get into
and
final
get
wrap
into, yeah.
ups. Do you want to go first or me?
I can go first. So I gave this movie a 4 out of 5. I'm gonna call that a tentative 4 out of 5 because this is a movie that I think I'm more interested in revisiting. I will say that I did proudly watch this without getting distracted. And I think this is a good movie that,
To pay attention to.
yeah, you kind of have to pay attention to little things, even if you don't notice everything. You'll notice enough, and essentially what you'll notice what you have to in order to understand the plot. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of really interesting details in the film that I'm just kind of more or less excited to return to and sort of delve deeper into it.
Yeah, after my first watch, I gave it a 4.5, and I stick to that. And honestly, maybe on a third rewatch, I may even lean into 5 territory because I think my issues are so minuscule in the grand spectrum of things because of going back to like what you were just saying, that this film is something you really need to pay attention to because the filmmakers put the effort in making the details matter. And that's when I think a film is really hitting in all cylinders, that it really makes you want to go back and pay attention. Like when you go back, I want you to look for the devil in the scenes that you already don't know he's in. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about just like minusculely in the background, like in random scenes you wouldn't even expect him in. And it's stuff like that with like these sound bites and sound cues that just keep your mind going and racing, that many films haven't done recently, especially in the horror genre, and I think that's why it hit such success with that like subgroup of people in the film community, myself included. So yet again, like you, I am excited to come back and rewatch it for a third time because I still think there's more to gather from this film on another rewatch. And it's just got some fantastic performances all around. I know we didn't mention it a lot, but Blair Underwood's really good as Carter in this
Yeah.
film. Alicia Witt as Lee's mother,
Oh
Ruth
yeah.
Harker's really good. Kiernan Shipka as Carrie Ann Longlegs' only survivor, who he convinces to jump off a building and kill herself. And her one scene is really haunting. And that's another thing, is the performances give the hauntingness, the scariness to this. Not talking about Longlegs, to the it's just really good all around. And I give kudos to everyone. And it's a high recommend for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
With that said, though, Leo, what are we watching next week?
Yeah, we're gonna be taking a little bit of a break, a week break to get some stuff in order, playing around with the different stuff behind the scenes. But anyways, we'll be back week after, and we will be watching. We're actually gonna go and see Scream 7 when that releases,
Oh my god, bro.
and we're gonna come back and give you guys our thoughts on that movie.
The time's come.
Yeah. This is gonna make or break. I mean, I know you didn't really enjoy the last two Scream movies. I kind of enjoyed them for what they were. As we've gotten closer to the release date of this movie, I have gotten less and less excited. And yeah, we're gonna see. This might be the end for me personally with the Scream.
Don't worry, bro. I
franchise.
think they might end it after this one anyway. So
If it's really bad, I kind of hope they do. But
bro,
I don't know
hope
if
they
it
do
makes
before
money
it comes
though.
out.
Huh?
I hope they do it before it comes out.
I don't know. It's obviously there were issues with this is not the original version we were gonna get, but obviously Melissa Barrera was fired for comments she made about the Israel Palestine. Do I call it a war?
Just say conflict.
Conflict, yeah, that's right. Conflict, sorry. And then Jenna Ortega dropped out, and then the original director dropped out. So now we're getting Kevin Williamson in the director's seat, which would sound exciting if not for the promotional materials that we've been seeing. But anyways, yeah. So that'll be the next episode, Scream 7. I hope we don't waste money on it.
We probably will.
But yeah, stay tuned for that, and we will see you guys again.
Peace.